At the shelter, dogs came and went, but Max was special. He was the kind of dog you couldn't forget. A black and white border collie mix with soulful eyes and a tail that never stopped wagging. No matter how long he waited, Max greeted every visitor with the same excitement, hoping today would be the day. Staff called him their happy boy because he spread joy wherever he went. Even other dogs seemed to perk up when Max was around. But deep down, Max was waiting for a family, for the chance to belong. Every time someone walked by his kennel, he'd press his nose to the metal bars, tail thumping furiously, eyes full of hope. If someone paused even for a second, Max would tilt his head and offer his best smile as if to say, "Pick me please." And then one ordinary afternoon it finally happened. A family, mom, dad, and 2 kids, walked straight to Max's enclosure. Their eyes lit up when they saw him and Max's heart soared. He danced around in circles, his excitement almost too much to contain. The shelter staff smiled knowingly. They had seen this moment many times before, but for Max, it was magic. The kids giggled as Max licked their hands through the bars, and the parents exchanged warm glances. "He's perfect," the father said softly. Paperwork was signed and the staff packed Max's things. A blanket, a squeaky toy, and some treats. "This is it," Max must have thought as the family clipped a new red leash to his collar and led him out the door. He walked through the shelter gates with his head held high, tail wagging like a little flag in the wind. His paws hit the pavement and for the first time in months, Max felt free. This was his moment. But hours later Max was back. The staff stared in disbelief when the shelter door swung open, and there stood the family, without Max's joyful energy. They handed his leash back to the receptionist with a mix of guilt and apology. "It's not going to work out," the father mumbled. Something about allergies or too much energy, the reasons blurred in the receptionist's ears. Max didn't understand the words, but he understood what was happening. They didn't want him. Max stood frozen at the shelter door, looking back at the family one last time. But they were already walking away. The light in his eyes flickered. One moment he had been part of a family. The next he was back in the cold, loud shelter, just another unwanted dog. Days passed and Max was no longer the happy boy everyone knew. His tail, once a whirlwind of joy, now hung lifeless between his legs. He stopped running to the front of his kennel when visitors came by. When someone called his name he barely lifted his head. The staff tried everything, extra walks, favorite toys, belly rubs. But Max's heart was somewhere far away, where promises had been made and broken. He spent most of his time lying on an old blanket, staring at the wall. His eyes no longer sparkled, and even the other dogs seemed to sense the shift. A staff member snapped a picture of him one day, curled in the corner, his face pressed into the blanket as if hiding from the world. That photo went up on the shelter's website, and the caption read, "Max, the dog with a broken heart, needs a second chance." That photo did something none of the staff expected. It touched people. It was shared over and over on social media, and soon strangers were calling the shelter asking about Max. But the staff knew that finding a family wasn't enough this time. Max needed someone patient, someone willing to help him heal. One rainy afternoon, a woman named Sarah walked through the shelter doors. She had seen Max's photo and couldn't stop thinking about him. She didn't bring toys or treats when she met him, just herself. Sitting quietly outside his kennel, Sarah waited, saying nothing. For a long time Max didn't move. But Sarah didn't leave. Finally, as the rain drummed gently outside, Max shifted. Slowly, cautiously, he stood and walked toward her. Sarah smiled, but she didn't reach out to pet him. She let Max decide. And after a long moment, Max rested his head softly against her hand. It wasn't much, just a small gesture, but it was the first sign of hope Max had shown in weeks. When Sarah took him home, she promised him one thing. "You're safe now. You won't come back here. Not ever." And this time Max believed her. As they walked out the shelter door, his tail gave the slightest wag. It wasn't a full swing just yet, but it was a start. The staff watched, teary-eyed, as their happy boy began to come back to life, one small step at a time. Max had finally found his forever home. And this time it was for good.